A young girl saw her poor father get into a luxury car. Confused, she followed the car, and what she discovered when her father arrived at the destination. The city was still asleep under the dark veil of dawn when Emily began her day. With expert and gentle movements, the 16-year-old girl mixed the ingredients for her homemade cookies in the kitchen that once was the heart of music and laughter in their home. Every morning, without fail, Emily would rise before the sun to ensure her small market stall was ready and waiting for the first passers-by. As the scent of cookies filled the crisp morning air, Emily couldn't help but recall the afternoons spent baking with her mother. In those moments, her mother taught her not only how to measure and mix, but also how to infuse love into every bite. Now that love transformed into a silent promise to the customers who awaited her treats. The market began to come alive as other vendors, each with their own stories and dreams, joined her. Emily carefully arranged her stall, placing each tray of cookies as if they were works of art in a gallery. Her corner soon became a small oasis of sweetness in people's morning routines. From afar, Michael, her father, watched with a mixture of pride and concern. Since the accident that took his wife and left scars on his soul, Michael had abandoned his saxophone, and with it, the music that was once his life. Now his world revolved around Emily, his little fighter who faced the world with a smile and homemade cookies. Each sale was a victory, each customer's smile, a balm for Emily's heart. But behind those moments of joy, the reality of her life was a constant reminder of what was at stake. The need to sell enough to pay the rent and keep the lights on in their small apartment. In one of those moments, a soft yet brittle melody filtered through the apartment window above the market. It was Emily, who, in brief moments of calm, found solace in her violin. The notes floated in the air, an echo of happier times with her mother. Michael closed his eyes, allowing himself to feel each note, each memory. In those brief instants, the music united them once more, mother and daughter, father and family. But the day didn't wait, and Emily knew every minute at her stall was vital. With a sigh, she set the violin aside, her promise to return as firm as the one she made every morning when she woke. For now, the cookies needed her attention, and the people at the market her smile and her sweets. This was how every day began for Emily, in a corner of a bustling market, where the cookies were more than just food. They were little pieces of hope, wrapped in the sweet scent of memory and the promise of a better future. As dusk faded and gave way to darkness, Emily closed her stall in the market. With the last cookies carefully stored and the coins counted, she began her walk back to the small apartment she shared with her father. Though the day had been long and her body felt tired, her spirit lightened at the thought of the night of music awaiting her. Her mother's violin, an instrument worn but filled with memories, rested in a corner of the living room, as if waiting for her return. Emily opened the case with reverence, each movement a tribute to the woman who had taught her to play. The aroma of varnish and old wood filled the air, transporting her to afternoons filled with laughter and songs. With the violin in hand, Emily approached the window that overlooked the twinkling lights of the city. The first note was timid, almost a question thrown to the wind. But as her confidence grew, the notes became declarations, stories told through the strings. Each melody was a piece of her heart, an invisible connection to the mother who was no longer physically present, but whose presence was felt in every vibration of the instrument. Meanwhile, Michael was in the kitchen preparing something for dinner. The sound of Emily's violin filtered through the apartment's walls, filling every corner with its sweetness. Though he tried to keep busy, each note he heard was like a call, a reminder of the days when music was his life, and his wife, the perfect duet partner. Melancholy enveloped him, but so did a deep admiration for his daughter's strength. Emily had inherited not only her mother's musical talent, but also her resilience and ability to find beauty in adversity. Michael leaned his forehead against the cold kitchen window, allowing himself a moment of vulnerability. The violin notes seemed to understand his pain, his loss, and offered him comfort. After a while, Emily set the violin aside and joined Michael in the kitchen. They shared dinner in comfortable silence, interrupted only by soft comments about the day and small triumphs. It was in these moments, in the simplicity of a shared meal and mutual company, that they both found the strength to face another day. Later, on the edge of night, Emily returned to the violin. This time Michael approached, took the saxophone that had been stored away for too long, and joined her. The music they created was imperfect, a bit rusty from years of silence, but deeply emotional. It was a dialogue between father and daughter, a bridge over the chasm of pain and loss. The improvised session was not just a display of talent, but an act of healing, a reminder that despite all they had lost, they still had each other and the music. And in that small apartment, under the cover of night, father and daughter played not for the world, but for themselves, to remember, to grieve, and finally to hope. It was a grey and cloudy day when Michael decided to take a different route home after picking up some supplies for the week. His mind was tangled in thoughts, replaying the notes from the previous night when music had filled their small apartment with echoes of a happier past. As he passed through the Central Park, a place he used to frequent in his musician days, a familiar voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Michael, it's been so long since I've seen you around here," exclaimed a figure approaching with a warm smile. It was Dr. Brown, an old acquaintance from the days when Michael played saxophone in a local jazz club. His surprise was genuine, and the pleasure of reconnecting with a friend was reflected in his face. "Dr. Brown, it's been a long time," Michael replied, his voice tinged with nostalgia. They decided to sit on one of the park benches, facing the pond where ducks swam carefree. Dr. Brown had followed Michael's career with interest, always admiring his talent and passion for music. As they caught up, Michael shared the struggles he had faced since the accident, the loss of his wife, abandoning music, and the challenges of raising Emily alone. "Michael, you can't let the music die in you. It's part of who you are," advised Dr. Brown seriously, noticing the sadness in his friend's eyes. "It's hard, you know. Every note I play reminds me of what I lost," Michael confessed, looking at the water that reflected the grey clouds. Touched by Michael's sincerity, Dr. Brown offered to help in the only way he knew how. He was the medical director of a local hospital and had access to a small music studio the hospital used for rehabilitation therapy. "Michael, I invite you to use our studio. Not just for you, it could be a place for Emily to explore her talent too. Consider this not just a favor, but an investment in your well-being and hers." The offer surprised Michael. The possibility of playing in a real studio, even if just for practice, sparked a glimmer of hope in his heart. It could be the push he needed to reconnect with his music, and perhaps a way to bond more deeply with Emily. "I'll think about it, Brown. Thank you, really," said Michael, feeling a mix of anticipation and fear. They said goodbye with a handshake, and Michael continued his way home, his mind now occupied with the possibility of playing seriously again. Upon arriving, he found Emily finishing her homework at the kitchen table. "How was your day, Dad?" Emily asked, noticing something different in her father's demeanor. "I had an interesting encounter. Dr. Brown, remember him? He offered something that might be good for us. We'll talk more later, okay?" Michael replied, a shy smile creeping onto his face. Emily nodded, intrigued but happy to see her father in good spirits. That night, during dinner, Michael shared Dr. Brown's offer. Emily listened intently, her eyes lighting up at the possibilities. "Do you think we should try it, Dad?" Emily asked, her voice full of cautious hope. "I think we should, Emmy. It could be our next step together," Michael affirmed, feeling that for the first time in a long while, the future offered a melody he wanted to explore. The morning at Emily's school was marked by the constant hum of students and teachers moving through the hallways, a cacophony that sharply contrasted with the serenity of her home life. Despite her load of responsibilities, Emily struggled to keep up with her studies, but the demands were often overwhelming. During math class, Emily's concentration waned. The numbers on the board blurred with thoughts of unpaid bills and the offer Dr. Brown had mentioned the night before. Mrs. Gomez's voice brought her back to reality. "Emily, could you solve this problem on the board?" asked Mrs. Gomez, noticing her distraction. At the front of the class, with the marker in hand, Emily felt the eyes of her classmates on her. The equations seemed to dance before her eyes, a reflection of the insecurity she felt. However, recalling her father's words of encouragement, she took a deep breath and began solving the problem, gradually finding her rhythm. "Well done, Emily," Mrs. Gomez smiled when the young girl finished, offering not only her approval but also a reminder of her potential despite the adversities. After class, Mrs. Gomez called Emily aside. "Emily, I've noticed you've been a bit distracted lately. If you need help, I'm here to offer tutoring after school. You're not alone in this," the teacher offered, her voice full of genuine concern. "Thank you, Mrs. Gomez. I really appreciate your support," Emily responded, feeling the weight of her worries lighten a little. As she left school, Emily met up with Valeria, her best friend, who was waiting with a comforting smile. "How was your day?" Valeria asked as they walked toward the exit. "It was a tough day, but Mrs. Gomez offered to help me with tutoring," Emily shared, grateful to have someone to talk to openly. Valeria, always attentive, noticed the tension in Emily's voice. "You know, Emily, we could organize something to help you, maybe a bake sale or something like that at school. It could be a good way to ease some of the pressure," Valeria suggested, excited by the idea of supporting her friend. Emily smiled, touched by Valeria's generosity. "That sounds amazing, Valeria. Thank you for always being there for me," Emily said, feeling fortunate to have such a supportive friend. With Valeria's support and Mrs. Gomez's offer of tutoring, Emily felt better equipped to face the challenges life threw at her. As they walked home together, the conversation shifted to lighter topics, like the upcoming bake sale and the visit to Dr. Brown's studio. It was in these small moments of comfort and camaraderie that Emily found the strength to keep going, reminding her that despite the obstacles, she was not alone. It was an afternoon like any other, with Emily helping her father close up the small cookie stall when she noticed something unusual. Michael, who had always been the picture of constancy and predictability, seemed nervous, checking his watch more frequently than usual and glancing toward the street with anticipation. Emily, her curiosity piqued, decided not to ask directly, but her mind kept turning over her father's behavior. Once home, while Emily focused on her schoolwork, Michael discreetly prepared. He put on a clean shirt and his best jacket, something he hadn't done in a long time. The transformation didn't go unnoticed by Emily, who finally broke the silence. "Dad, do you have some special plans tonight?" she asked cautiously, trying not to sound too inquisitive. Michael, surprised by his daughter's observation, hesitated before replying. "Yes, I have a meeting with some old friends. Nothing to worry about, Emmy," he said, trying to sound nonchalant. However, his answer only heightened Emily's curiosity and concern. Something in her father's tone didn't add up, and the lack of details only served to fuel her suspicions. Determined to discover what he was hiding, Emily made a decision that would change her understanding of her family's situation. That night, after ensuring her father had left, Emily followed him at a distance. Michael walked with a quick and sure pace toward a part of the city they rarely visited, an area known for its elegant restaurants and luxury boutiques. Finally, he entered a restaurant that stood out for its sophisticated decor and cozy ambiance. Emily got close enough to see through the windows without being noticed. Inside, her father was meeting with a couple who seemed to be in their 50s, well-dressed, and with a posture that denoted a certain importance. The conversation seemed serious. Michael's gestures reflected a mix of nervousness and sincerity. Caught between curiosity and fear, Emily managed to catch fragments of the conversation. Words like treatment, financial help, and "I didn't want to worry you" floated toward her, each one piercing her heart like an arrow of reality. Michael was talking about his health, mentioning a condition that required expensive treatment, something he had never mentioned at home. With her heart pounding, Emily withdrew from the window, overwhelmed by emotions. Concern for her father, the feeling of being kept in the dark, and the fear of what this illness meant for their future all swirled in a whirlwind of thoughts and feelings. Back home, Emily waited in the living room, her face tense with anxiety. When Michael finally returned, the look of worry on his face confirmed Emily's worst fears. She knew it was time to confront reality, to talk openly about the challenges and decisions they faced. "Dad, we need to talk," Emily said with a firm yet trembling voice, preparing for a conversation that could change everything. The dim light of the living room enveloped Emily and Michael in a somber embrace as they sat facing each other, each contemplating how to start a conversation that would change their lives forever. Emily, with a heavy but determined heart, decided to break the silence hanging between them. "Dad, we need to talk about what I heard tonight," Emily said, her voice barely a whisper, but filled with a determination that resonated in the narrow space between them. Michael looked away, his face etched with lines of worry and fatigue. He knew this moment would come, but that didn't make it any easier. He took a deep breath, preparing to reveal a truth he had kept buried deep within. "Emily, there are things I've wanted to protect you from. My health, my future, the doctors. They found cancer. It's aggressive and advancing quickly," Michael confessed, each word heavy with the weight of a devastating diagnosis. Emily felt as if the ground had vanished beneath her. Her father's words echoed in her mind, each syllable a reverberation of fear and despair. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Emily's voice broke under the weight of her anguish, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I wanted to keep you safe from the pain, from the worry. Every day you could smile without the shadow of my illness was a gift to me," Michael replied, his voice trembling, revealing his own internal struggle between paternal protection and the need for support. "Dad, I need to be here for you. You can't face this alone. It's too much for one person, too much for you." Emily reached out, intertwining her fingers with his in a gesture of connection and support. The conversation that followed was intense and filled with raw emotions. They discussed treatments, medical options, and what the future might hold. Despite the fear and uncertainty, Michael's honesty and Emily's bravery forged a new level of understanding and closeness between them. The next day, as Emily reflected on their conversation, a spark of determination ignited within her as she remembered the talent show announced at school. The prize money could mean new hope for her father's treatment. With renewed purpose, she signed up, determined to win and change their destiny. "Dad, there's a talent show at school, and I've decided that we should participate together. We'll play together, you on the saxophone and I on the violin. It could be our chance, not just for the treatment, but to do something beautiful together, something Mom would have wanted," Emily explained, her voice filled with a mixture of hope and resolve. Michael, deeply moved and slightly overwhelmed by his daughter's proposal, felt a resurgence of his fighting spirit. "All right, Emmy, let's do this, for your mother, for us," he said, his determination hardening his features as he nodded, committing to his daughter's plan. The rehearsals began with an air of defiance in the face of adversity. Each session was a mix of pain and pleasure, of remembering and creating new memories. Music became their refuge, their battlefield against the illness that threatened to take Michael's life. As the talent show approached, every note they played together was not just a step toward a possible monetary prize, but an affirmation of life, an act of defiance against the cruel fate that had been imposed upon them. United by music, father and daughter faced the future, not with fear, but with a melody of hope and struggle resonating in their hearts. The days leading up to the talent show turned into an emotional countdown for Emily and Michael. Each rehearsal was an opportunity to strengthen their connection and perfect their performance, but also a reminder of how much was at stake. In their small living room, where the walls were adorned with faded photographs of happier times, Michael took out his old saxophone. He observed the instrument, thinking about how, after so many years of silence, it was becoming his voice in a crucial moment of his life. Emily, for her part, tuned her violin with trembling but determined hands, aware that each note she played was an echo of her love and hope for her father. "Dad, remember what we talked about? It's not just about the notes, it's about conveying our emotions, our story," Emily said, offering him an encouraging smile as they positioned themselves to start another rehearsal. Michael nodded, feeling a mix of nervousness and gratitude. He took a deep breath and nodded at Emily to begin. The first chords they played together were hesitant, but as they continued, the music flowed more naturally, filling the space with its warmth and emotional complexity. Michael closed his eyes, letting the music carry him, allowing each note to dispel his fears and replace uncertainty with growing confidence. "That was much better, Dad. You're sounding more like yourself every day," Emily commented enthusiastically after finishing a particularly emotional piece. Michael smiled, the sound of his laughter a balm for them both. He knew that regardless of the outcome of the talent show, these moments with Emily were an invaluable gift, a memory he would cherish forever, no matter the challenges they still faced. A few days before the talent show, they decided to hold a final rehearsal at the studio that Dr. Brown had offered. The professional environment provided them with a new level of inspiration and a sense of seriousness in their preparation. Emily felt overwhelmed at first by the solemnity of the studio, but Michael's calming presence helped her focus. "Imagine we're just at home, Emmy. Don't think about the microphones or the lights. It's just you and me speaking through our music," Michael advised, placing his hand on Emily's shoulder to reassure her. With that image in mind, Emily played the first notes on the violin, followed by the deep and resonant sound of Michael's saxophone. Together, they created a melody that was both heartbreaking and hopeful, a reflection of their shared journey through adversity to a place of mutual strength. The final rehearsal was a resounding success, and when they finished, they looked at each other, knowing they had reached a level of connection that went beyond words. They left the studio that night feeling more united than ever, ready to face whatever came with the certainty that no matter what happened at the talent show, they had already won something far more significant: the certainty of their unbreakable love and the healing power of music in their lives. As the big day of the talent contest approached, Emily and Michael felt increasingly prepared and connected through their music. However, as life often does, it had some unexpected obstacles in store. The morning before the contest, while practicing a particularly emotional piece they had planned to perform, a discordant sound interrupted the smooth melody of Michael's saxophone. Confused, Michael tried to hit a high note, but the sound that emerged was harsh and out of tune. "Something's wrong," Michael said, examining his saxophone with a mix of frustration and worry. Upon closer inspection, they discovered that one of the keys was stuck and another part seemed damaged, likely due to years of disuse and the recent intensity of their practice. Emily's heart sank. They knew they didn't have the means for a quick repair or the purchase of a new instrument. "We can't let this stop us, Dad," Emily said, trying to keep her voice steady, though inside she felt desperate. With little time left and their spirits dropping, Michael and Emily decided to seek help. They remembered the generosity and support they had received from Dr. Brown and wondered if perhaps the community could help them once again. Emily took the initiative to call Valeria, her best friend, who had been a constant source of support. After explaining the situation, Valeria didn't hesitate to act. "We're going to organize a fundraiser. I know lots of people at school and in the community who would be willing to help, especially when they hear what it's for," Valeria proposed enthusiastically. Moved by the urgency, Valeria used social media to launch a quick fundraising campaign, highlighting Emily and Michael's story, their struggle, and their immediate need for support. The response was overwhelming and deeply touching. The local community, along with friends and family, began to contribute, touched by the story of perseverance and family unity. Meanwhile, Michael visited a small musical instrument repair shop, where he explained his situation to the owner, an old music lover and well-known figure among local musicians. Moved by Michael's story and the upcoming performance, the repairman promised to do everything possible to fix the saxophone in time for the contest. "I'll have it ready for you by tomorrow morning. We'll make it sound like new, don't worry," assured the repairman, offering not only his skill, but also a generosity that went beyond business as usual. The night before the contest, Emily and Michael sat in their living room, reflecting on the day's events. Despite the initial stress and worry, they felt humbly grateful for the unconditional support of their community. "No matter what happens tomorrow, we've already gained more than we imagined," Michael said, taking Emily's hand. She nodded, feeling closer to her father than ever. Adversity had strengthened their bond, and the kindness of their community reminded them that they were not alone in their struggle. Relieved but exhausted, they decided to rest, knowing that no matter the outcome of the contest, they had already achieved a significant victory in their hearts. The dawn of the contest day brought with it a mix of nerves and excitement. Emily woke up early, feeling a whirlwind of emotions as she prepared. Looking at her father, who was also getting ready, she saw a determined gleam in his eyes that gave her courage. "Today is our day, Emmy," Michael said with a smile, trying to lighten the mood. They arrived at the contest venue with enough time to acclimate to the surroundings. The auditorium was filled with participants, each with their own story and dreams of winning. Emily and Michael, with the newly repaired saxophone in hand, headed to the practice area to warm up. The first notes Michael played resonated clean and clear, and Emily felt immense relief hearing that her father's sound was intact. As they practiced, other contestants watched with curiosity and admiration. The coordination and love emanating from their music were palpable, attracting several spectators who stopped to listen. Despite the praise and encouragement, Emily felt the pressure mounting as their turn approached. "Remember, we're not just playing notes, we're telling our story. Let the music speak," Michael whispered to Emily before stepping onto the stage. When they were finally announced, they walked onto the stage together, their steps echoing in the expectant silence of the auditorium. The lights shone brightly on them, and for a moment, Emily felt overwhelmed by the gaze of hundreds of eyes. But looking beside her and seeing her father adjusting his saxophone, all her anxiety transformed into serene focus. The silence was broken by the first note from Emily's violin, soft and melancholic, followed by the rich, emotional sound of Michael's saxophone. Together, they wove a melody that spoke of struggles and hopes, of losses and redemption. The music rose and fell, capturing the heart of every spectator, taking them on an emotional journey that only true art can offer. As the piece reached its climax, Emily and Michael were completely immersed in their performance, forgetting the outside world, the contest, and the prize. There were only them and their music, a dialogue between the violin and the saxophone that seemed to suspend time. At the end, the auditorium erupted in applause. Emily and Michael held hands, bowing to the audience. The ovation was intense and prolonged, a testament to the moving power of their performance. As they stepped off the stage, both felt emotionally drained but deeply satisfied, knowing they had given their all. Regardless of the contest outcome, Emily and Michael knew they had achieved something great that day. They had shared their story, their hearts, and most importantly, had strengthened their bond through the purest expression they knew, their music. Now, as they awaited the verdict, they felt calm, proud of their effort, and the emotional journey they had undertaken together. The auditorium still echoed with the applause as Emily and Michael retreated to the seats reserved for participants. Around them, other contestants and spectators commented on the performances, with many eyes still fixed on them, full of admiration and emotion. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as everyone waited for the contest results. Michael, feeling a mix of nerves and pride, looked at Emily and squeezed her hand. "No matter what happens, you've done more than I ever could have imagined," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Emily, though anxious about the result, felt a deep peace. The experience of sharing the stage with her father, expressing their story through music, was already a prize that no jury could grant or take away. However, the desire to win the cash prize to help with Michael's treatment added weight to her hope. Finally, the moment arrived. The presenter took the stage with the envelopes containing the winners' names. Silence fell over the room as each category was announced, with the winners going up to the stage to receive their awards. The tension grew as they approached the instrumental music category. "And now, for the prize in the instrumental category," the presenter began. And a tense silence fell over the auditorium. Emily squeezed her father's hand, holding her breath. "The third place goes to..." announced the presenter. And a name that wasn't theirs echoed through the auditorium. Then the second place was revealed, and it wasn't them either. Emily felt a knot in her stomach, but kept her eyes fixed on the stage, waiting. And the first place in the instrumental category goes to, the presenter's pause seemed eternal, Julian Clark and his masterful piano performance. Applause erupted in the auditorium, and as the winner took the stage, Emily and Michael looked at each other with a mix of disappointment and resignation. They hadn't won. Despite the initial sadness, they were quickly surrounded by other participants and spectators, congratulating them on their moving performance. It was the most emotional of the night, assured an older couple who had been brought to tears by their performance. As they made their way through the crowd of congratulations and consolations, Javier Hernandez, an event organizer who was also involved in charity activities, approached them with an unexpected proposal. "Your music touched something deep in many of us tonight," Javier began, his face serious but kind. "I'd like to talk to you about the possibility of participating in a charity concert we're organizing. I think your story and talent could help raise a lot for the cause." Surprised but intrigued, Emily and Michael listened as Javier explained how the concert would benefit families facing medical situations similar to Michael's. Not only would they have the opportunity to perform again, but they could also contribute to a greater cause, helping others while seeking solutions to their own crisis. Though they hadn't won the contest, this opportunity opened a new door, offering a ray of hope and purpose. As they left the auditorium that night, the weight of disappointment was lifted by the prospect of doing something meaningful, reaffirming that their music had a power that went beyond prizes and recognition. Javier Hernandez's proposal to participate in a charity concert had injected new energy into Emily and Michael. Despite not winning the talent contest, the possibility of using their music to help others gave them a sense of purpose that went beyond their own needs. In the days that followed, as Michael continued his treatment, which now felt a little less overwhelming thanks to the hope of the upcoming event, they both dedicated themselves to preparing their repertoire for the concert. This time, they weren't just rehearsing for a competition, but for a cause that touched their hearts deeply. "This is bigger than us, Emmy," Michael commented during one of their rehearsals. "It's our chance to give back, to make a difference with what we do best." Emily nodded, feeling a mix of pride and responsibility. As they practiced, their musical connection deepened, each note imbued with a sense of mission and altruism. Music, once a personal refuge in times of pain, was becoming a bridge to the community, a way to touch the lives of others facing similar struggles. Meanwhile, Javier was busy organizing the event, ensuring a prominent spot for Emily and Michael's performance. He promoted their story as part of the concert campaign, generating an emotional response from the community. Many, moved by their courage and talent, pledged their attendance and support. The day of the concert arrived, and the theater quickly filled with an audience eager not only to enjoy good music, but also to support a noble cause. Among the crowd were familiar faces from the community, including doctors from the hospital where Michael was treated, Emily's school friends, and several of those who had contributed to repairing Michael's saxophone. Before taking the stage, Emily and Michael shared a quiet moment. Michael looked at his daughter, his heart full of gratitude for her unwavering support. "No matter what happens after this, I want you to know how much everything we've done together means to me, Emmy. I'm so proud of you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm proud of us too, Dad. Let's do this for Mum, for everyone who's helped us, and for those we're helping tonight," Emily replied, strengthening the bond that united them. They stepped onto the stage to warm applause. The lights dimmed, and silence settled in, all eyes on them. Emily raised her violin, and Michael adjusted his saxophone. With a shared look, they began to play, their melodies filling the space, each note a statement of hope and solidarity. The music flowed, more powerful and emotional than ever, each piece reflecting their journey together. The audience was captivated, moved by the beauty of their art and the depth of their story. At the end of their performance, the applause was deafening, a recognition not only of their musical talent but also of their resilient and generous spirit. After the concert, as they received congratulations and thanks, Emily and Michael felt overwhelmed by the amount of support and love they received. The night had not only been a success in terms of fundraising, but also as an affirmation of their ability to inspire and be agents of change through their music. As they left the theatre, with the echo of applause still ringing in their ears, they both knew that no matter what challenges they might face in the future, they would always have music and each other to face them. This experience had opened a new chapter in their lives, one full of possibilities and new ways to share their love and art with the world. After the resounding success of the charity concert, Emily and Michael's lives took an unexpectedly positive turn, as if a new light had been lit on their path. The event not only brought the community together around a noble cause, but also generated a considerable amount of money. This financial support not only helped alleviate the economic burden of Michael's costly medical treatments, but also opened up a series of new opportunities for their involvement in community events. Music, which had been their refuge during dark times, was now transforming into a driving force of change and hope. Michael, despite facing a challenging diagnosis, began to experience renewed energy, fueled by the deep connection he had established with his audience. Seeing the tangible impact his music had on others' lives inspired him to move forward with more passion than ever. Motivated by this transformative experience, Michael decided that his music should be more than just entertainment. He embarked on a new path as a musical activist, using his talent to touch the hearts and minds of those facing their own battles. He joined several programs that integrated music as therapy for patients with various illnesses, firmly believing that art could be a powerful healing tool. "The support and warmth I received during my illness motivated me to give the same back," Michael shared with Emily while organizing a music session at the local hospital. "Music has saved me in many ways, Emmy. Now I see it can help others find comfort and perhaps a little joy in their hardest moments." Emily, observing her father's transformation, found a new passion that resonated deeply with her own interests. She decided to study how music influences mental and physical health, incorporating this interest into her school project. Spending hours in the library, Emily researched studies on music therapy and its benefits, eagerly noting cases where music had facilitated the healing process. This not only strengthened her bond with Michael, but also provided her with a deeply personal academic purpose. Music became a common thread in her life, connecting her family experience with her educational aspirations. Her project explored how melodies could calm anxiety, reduce pain, and improve patients' overall well-being. Together, father and daughter began participating in workshops and seminars, sharing their music and personal stories with audiences seeking inspiration. In each session, Emily played her violin with grace and sensitivity that touched the deepest fibers of the heart, while Michael accompanied her with his saxophone, creating a musical synergy that enveloped listeners in a mantle of serenity. Patients, some battling serious illnesses, found a moment of respite and peace in each note. The effect of the music was palpable. A young convalescent mother who had been distant from her surroundings began to smile and hum during the sessions. An elderly man with Parkinson's disease, whose movements had been stiff, was seen gently swaying to the rhythm of the music. Doctors and hospital staff began to notice small but significant improvements in the patient's well-being after these sessions. The hospital director, impressed by the results, commented, "It's amazing to see how something as simple as music can make such a big difference. Alongside traditional medicine, music is playing a crucial role in our patients' recovery." The community at large also began to recognize Emily and Michael not just as talented musicians, but as true pillars of hope and support. They were invited to participate in conferences on the intersection of art and medicine, where they shared their experiences and learnings, inspiring others to explore similar paths. At one of these conferences, a university professor proposed collaborating on a study on the effectiveness of music therapy in hospital settings. Emily, excited by the possibility, became deeply involved in the research, contributing her own observations and experiences to help shape the body of academic research. The bond between Emily and Michael was further strengthened through these activities. Every note they played together was not only a manifestation of their talent, but also a symbol of their shared struggle and mutual support. They knew that no matter what the future held, music would always be their refuge and their way of connecting, not only with each other, but also with the world. The final chapter of Emily's school project was a public presentation in which she spoke about her personal and professional journey with music. The auditorium was packed, with classmates, teachers, medical professionals, and community members, all witnesses to the impact a young girl and her father had made with their courage, dedication, and musical talent. During her presentation, Emily shared touching anecdotes about the patients they had reached and how music had changed their lives. She showed charts and statistics that supported the therapeutic benefits of music, but it was her personal story that truly captured the audience's hearts. As the applause filled the auditorium at the end of her presentation, Emily and Michael looked at each other, knowing they had exceeded everyone's expectations, including their own. Their music had evolved from an expression of their pain to a celebration of life, love, and community, proving that even in the most difficult circumstances, hope can be found and nurtured through shared passion and purpose. One sunny morning, Michael headed to the hospital for his routine follow-up appointment, his heart filled with a mix of hope and nerves. It had been a challenging year, but also one filled with moments of music and community connection that had given his life new meaning. As he waited in the doctor's office, he replayed in his mind all the performances, the rehearsals, and especially every moment shared with Emily, his source of strength and joy. Finally, Dr. Brown entered the room with a folder in his hands. His expression was serious, but there was a gleam in his eyes that Michael couldn't decipher. "Michael, I have good news for you," Dr. Brown began, opening the folder. "The latest tests show that your cancer has gone into complete remission. There are no detectable signs of the disease in your body." Michael's world stopped for a moment. The doctor's words resonated in his mind like a sweet and powerful melody. Complete remission. It was the news he had dreamed of hearing but had barely dared to hope for. "Are you sure, doctor?" Michael asked, his voice trembling with contained emotion. "Completely sure, Michael. It's an exceptional case, no doubt helped by your positive attitude and the support you've received. We'll need to keep monitoring you, of course, but this is the best news we could hope for," Dr. Brown confirmed with a genuine smile. Michael nodded, tears beginning to form in his eyes. As he left the hospital, he felt as though a tremendous weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He walked to the nearest park and sat on a bench under the blossoming trees, reflecting on his journey. After a while, he took out his phone and called Emily. When she answered, her voice was full of the usual joy and anticipation. Michael took a moment to compose himself before speaking. "Emmy, darling, I just left the hospital. I have news. Incredible news," Michael said, his voice laden with emotion. "What's going on, Dad? Is everything okay?" Emily responded, her tone quickly shifting to concern. "More than okay, my dear. The doctor said the cancer is gone. I'm in full remission." Michael could almost feel the relief and joy radiating from Emily through the phone. "Oh, Dad, that's wonderful. It's the best thing I've ever heard in my life," Emily exclaimed, and Michael could hear the sound of tears of happiness in her voice. They decided to meet at home to celebrate and talk more. When Emily arrived, they hugged for a long time, sharing the moment of joy and relief. Sitting on the couch, hands entwined, they talked about the future, about all the things they still wanted to do and experience together. "All of this, every effort, every note we played was worth it, Emmy. You gave me a reason to fight to hope. And our music, our wonderful music, gave us more than joy. It gave us life," Michael said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I always knew our music was special, Dad, but I never imagined how much it could really change our lives," Emily replied, squeezing her father's hand. So in that small corner of their shared world, Michael and Emily committed to continue using their music as a force for change and healing, not just for themselves, but for all those they encountered along the way, because, in the end, They had learned that music not only had the power to heal the body, but also the soul. And as long as they had a melody to play and a heart willing to listen, they knew they could face any challenge life threw at them. The sun slowly dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink, orange, and purple as night began to spread its starry mantle. Father and daughter, Michael and Emily, sat on the porch of their home, a cozy refuge in the peaceful countryside. It was an almost magical scene where nature and music merged into perfect harmony. The evening breeze softly whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of wildflowers that surrounded their home. Michael and Emily exchanged a knowing glance, feeling a connection deeper than words could express. The cool wind brushed their faces, and the song of crickets began to fill the air with a natural serenade. From the porch, they could see the lights of the city twinkling in the distance, reminding them that, although the world kept turning, in that moment only they and their shared dreams existed. Life had taught them that every day was a gift, and that particular night, the future unfolded before them like a blank canvas, ready to be painted with their hopes and aspirations. "Emily, I never imagined that the day would come when we could sit here and talk about our future with so much excitement," Michael said, his voice tinged with emotion and gratitude. "Dad, we've come a long way together. Music has been our refuge and our guide. Now it's time to celebrate what we've accomplished and all that's yet to come," Emily replied, her eyes shining with a mix of joy and determination. A few days after receiving the wonderful news of Michael's cancer remission, Emily was in her room, surrounded by books and magazines. It was a rainy afternoon, perfect for diving into knowledge. As she flipped through a scientific magazine, an article caught her attention. The title spoke about the therapeutic effects of music on human health, and Emily felt a spark of curiosity ignite within her. With growing enthusiasm, she read how music was not only an emotional escape, but also a powerful tool that directly affected the brain. The article described how music could activate various areas of the brain, from those related to movement to those controlling planning, attention, and memory. Emily couldn't contain her excitement as she absorbed every word. Science was now validating what she and her father had intuitively experienced, that music had the power to heal, to transform sadness into hope and fear into strength. That same afternoon, she couldn't wait to share the discovery with Michael. She hurried to the living room, where her father was tuning his beloved saxophone, preparing for one of his usual musical sessions. "Dad, you have to see this," Emily exclaimed, holding the magazine. "I found an article that explains how music affects the brain and improves health. It says there's scientific evidence to back up what we've experienced together." Michael looked up, intrigued by his daughter's enthusiasm. He took the magazine and began to read, with each paragraph revealing new perspectives on the power of music. "Emily, this is really fascinating. It says here that music can increase the release of dopamine, the happiness hormone. That explains why we feel so good when we play or listen to music," Michael commented, amazed. The article continued detailing studies that showed significant improvements in patients with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia when regularly exposed to music. It also mentioned cases of brain-damaged patients who had shown remarkable recovery, as well as people who had reduced their stress levels and improved their sleep quality through music. Michael paused to reflect, remembering the days when music had been his only comfort during chemotherapy sessions, and how playing the saxophone with Emily had given him the strength to carry on. "It's amazing to see how something that has been part of our journey has such a solid foundation in science," said Michael, his voice filled with wonder and appreciation. Inspired by this new understanding, Emily and Michael began to devise a plan to share this revelation with others. They decided to organize workshops at local hospitals, not only offering musical performances, but also educating about the neurological benefits of music. They wanted more people to experience the healing power they had known firsthand. "We can use this information to help more people understand why and how music can be part of their healing process," Emily suggested, with a smile that reflected her passion for the project. With renewed energy, they worked for weeks to develop a program that combined live music sessions with informative discussions and educational materials based on scientific research. The response from the community was overwhelming, with people of all ages eager to learn and experience the revitalizing effects of music. The day of the big event at the local hospital arrived, and the conference room was filled with patients, families, and medical staff. The atmosphere was charged with expectation, and when Michael and Emily took the stage, they were met with warm and hopeful applause. During the presentation, they shared their findings and played several musical pieces that had been fundamental in their own healing journey. The music filled the room, wrapping the audience in a mantle of peace and hope. Mary, a patient recovering from major surgery, was one of the first to approach them after the performance. With tears in her eyes, she expressed her gratitude for the impact music had had on her recovery. "I wanted to thank you personally," Mary said, her voice breaking with emotion. "Since you started coming and playing here, my days have been more bearable. Your music has given me comfort and strength to face recovery. It's not just medicine we need, it's hope, and that's what you bring." Michael and Emily were deeply moved, grateful to see the tangible impact of their work. This moment reinforced their conviction in the healing power of music and reminded them why they had started this project. Joseph, a young patient struggling with anxiety and the stress of being hospitalized, also shared his experience with them. "Before I heard you play, my nights were almost unbearable," Joseph explained, his voice trembling but sincere. "The first time I heard your concert was the first night I could sleep without fear or pain. Your music takes me to a peaceful place, helps me forget where I am." Emily gently took his hand, grateful for his honesty. "We're so glad our music has helped you, Joseph. It's a powerful reminder of why we do this," she replied, reaffirming their commitment to continue these efforts. At the end of the event, Mrs. Lopez, a veteran nurse at the hospital, approached Michael and Emily. Her expression was one of gratitude and admiration as she extended her hand in a firm handshake. "What you've done for our patients goes beyond any treatment we can offer," said Mrs. Lopez, looking at them with respect. "Music is your medicine, yes, but you two, with your passion and empathy, have healed souls here. You don't know how much it means to us to see this transformation." These words struck Michael and Emily deeply, leading them to reflect on their impact. As they walked away from the hospital that afternoon, they both felt overwhelmed by a sense of fulfilled purpose and renewed passion for bringing their music to those who needed it. "Today I really felt, perhaps for the first time, how powerful our art can be," Michael commented as they walked. "Yes, Dad. It's like every note we play not only fills the air but also heals hearts. We're going to keep doing this, right?" Emily asked, her voice full of determination. "Yes, my love, definitely. But before we continue, we have one last concert to perform," Michael replied, taking a deep breath with a face full of bravery and hope. The sky was tinged with the soft colors of sunset when Emily and Michael arrived at the quiet cemetery where her mother rested. The place, adorned with flowers of all colors, seemed to embrace them in a silent and peaceful hug. They walked together to the grave, each step echoing with memories and past melodies. When they arrived, they carefully placed a bouquet of white and violet lilies on the tombstone, her mother's favorite flowers. Michael knelt briefly, touching the cold stone with trembling fingers, while Emily, standing beside him, held her violin with reverence. "Mom, we've come to tell you about the journey we've had, about all that music has given us, and what we've been able to give through it," Emily began, her voice breaking with emotion. Michael joined her, looking at the inscription on the tombstone that bore his beloved wife's name. "Darling, every note I've played since you left has been for you. At first, each song was a reminder of what I had lost, but now each melody is a testament to our love and the life we shared," Michael said, tears shining in his eyes as he spoke toward the stone, as if he could transcend the threshold of death. Emily began to play the violin softly, the melody floating in the air, a piece they had composed together for this moment. Michael took out his saxophone and joined in, their notes intertwining in perfect harmony that seemed to rise to the sky, seeking the woman who had inspired so much love and music. "This song is for you, Mum. It's a celebration of everything you taught us, of your love, which lives on in every piece we play." Emily continued, closing her eyes to feel more deeply the connection with her mother through music. The sound of their instruments filled the cemetery, playing not just for an audience of one, but for the entire universe. The music was both a farewell and a thank you, a closure and a new beginning, full of hope and healing. When the last note faded into the cool evening air, Michael and Emily embraced, feeling a peace they hadn't experienced in a long time. They had shared something deeply personal and powerful, a cure not just for their own pain, but a gift of pure love to the woman who had united them in life and in music. "Thank you, Mum, for every moment, for every song. Your love is still here in every note we play," Michael whispered, as a gentle breeze seemed to respond, carrying his words somewhere beyond. "Thank you, darling. You healed my soul with your existence. Now we will heal souls with our music," Emily added, with a smile of gratitude and eternal love. Emily and Michael's story is a profound testimony to the resilience of the human spirit and the healing power of art. Through their journey, they remind us that music is much more than a series of notes and chords. It is a vital force capable of moving emotions, healing wounds, and uniting hearts. Emily and Michael's story teaches us that music is a life companion, with us in both joy and sorrow, a healing force that helps us navigate life's storms with grace and strength. It reminds us that, in the strings of a violin or the chords of a saxophone, there are stories of love, loss, resilience, and hope, waiting to be told and shared, resonating forever in the hearts of those who listen. And so ends our emotional story of Emily and Michael, a father-daughter duo whose music not only transformed their lives, but also touched the hearts of many around them. We hope you found inspiration and comfort in their journey, reminding us all of the healing power of art and the importance of family and community. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more stories like this one. Share this video with anyone you think needs a little music and hope in their lives. Until next time, and may the music always be with you.